Have you ever been criticized by somebody close to you, or questioned, or doubted? Maybe even the person who's closest to you and is supposed to be like the person who's the most supportive, the most loving, the most compassionate, the most of a cheerleader as you are going for your business dreams and goals in your dream life. Maybe your husband, maybe your best friend, maybe a parent, a boyfriend, somebody close to you, somebody whose opinion you really, really value and trust. It's likely that you have, because I get questions and requests for what I'm about to share with you all the time. This is probably one of the most requested and the most often asked questions I hear from women around the world as you're building your businesses. And so we're going to talk today about how to deal with negative friends and family members while building your business. Because I know that if you're watching this live, a lot of you might be heading into spending time with them. You might be traveling to spend time with a bunch of them, or you might just be spending some extended time as you take time off over the holidays with a few people, some concentrated time. And so it's super, super important that you learn how to deal with negative friends, questioning friends and family, doubting, critical, whatever, so that you can continue to build your business anyway, and you can actually turn it around and use it for good. Use it to become even better. Use it to actually grow your business, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So I want you to tell me first if this has ever happened to you. I want you to tell me in the comments, has this ever happened to you? Has somebody ever said something to you that just felt like it totally derailed you, it really upset you, it made you question things, it hurt your feelings, any of those things as you've been building your business? Tell me yes if you want to share details. If you feel comfortable doing that, please do share. You know this is a safe space. If we haven't met, my name's Christine McAllister. I'm the founder of Life with Passion, and I help women around the world to build their businesses and replace their 9-to-5 income so that they can quit their jobs, or if they're already out, so that they can stay out of the 9-to-5 world for good. So cheers. I've got my green tea here with me. I invite you to grab something that you find delicious to eat or drink and participate in this fully with me, because that's how you're going to get the value live or on the replay. So how can you, my friend, walk away from spending concentrated time with friends and family without what I call a negativity hangover? Without walking away feeling like you're questioning everything, feeling like you are doubting yourself, feeling like you are not sure you can do this anymore, and finding yourself like kind of taking that self-doubt to a whole other level of like maybe you're, just take a few days where you're procrastinating, you really feel like you've been derailed, you lose some momentum. How can we avoid that? How can we set you up for success right now? That's what we're talking about. Again, let me know if you can relate to this, or am I the only one? I know you guys have asked a lot of questions about this. So I'm just going to assume that a lot of you can relate to me. This is like one of the ways that somebody in my community described it. I think some of us lose ourselves after we get married, or at least I found that to be true for me. I'm doing my best to come out of that and not let my negative husband control or influence my decisions and what I want to do, and also what is possible for my business. So in this case, this woman is experiencing a lot of negativity from her husband. Now, for a lot of us, it can be siblings, it could be extended family members, it could be parents, it could be friends. Nancy says, yes, definitely. Thank you, Nancy. And Kalila says, yes, particularly from friends and previous colleagues. Okay, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Pogo, come here. Come here. He's whining and it's driving me bonkers. Come. Lay down. Mr. Grumbles, lay down. Dog life is a hard life, staring at the window at the squirrels. All right. So I'm going to share some personal examples that have happened to me. Pogo, Kalila says hi. I want to share some personal examples that I've experienced just over the past couple of years alone. Last year, somebody said to me, an extended family member, and because my audience is the size that it is now, I'm not going to share exactly who these are. But I am going to share with you what they said and what I did. Last year, I got, somebody said to me at Thanksgiving, let's focus on the positives of this situation and not the potential problems. And then literally 2 hours later, they said, as we were talking about some of the amazing results that my clients have had, they said, well, for every one success story like that, there are thousands of people who didn't make it. Cool. Thanks for that. That's good time holiday cheer, right? Now, this person's totally well-meaning, as most of our friends and family members are. They're just trying to help in their mind, right? Like, the thing I think that we really need to recognize is that these people really feel like they're coming from a well-meaning place. Most of the time, it's not malicious. Most of the time, it is not intended to cause harm or have the effects that it does. But the truth is, if your mindset isn't totally dialed in as you go into these conversations, it's going to knock you for a loop. And there's Isley. It's going to knock you for a loop. So when this person said this to me, if I hadn't been consciously working on my thoughts for the previous 2 years, I would have taken in these conflicting messages. On one side, let's focus on the positives and not the potential problems. And on the other side, well, for everyone's success story, there are thousands of people who didn't make it. I would have taken both of those in, and those mixed messages would likely have kept me stuck. Because the truth is, we get mixed messages everywhere from society, and we have our whole lives. And until we begin to own and take control over those messages and consciously change them, we're just going to continue to be confused. We're going to feel like we don't know what we're doing wrong. We're going to feel really stuck, right? I've been hearing mixed messages like this for my whole life, and you have too. It's just like debt. My amazing client Sherry has shared before that, society makes it so easy for us to get credit, to take out loans for school or buy whatever we want, but then immediately turns around and shames us for having debt. Right? Let's talk about mixed messages. So whether it's business building, whether it's possible for you to quit and stay out of your 9 to 5, whether it's possible for you to make the kind of money you want to make, live the kind of life that you want to live, whatever it is, we're getting mixed messages all the time. If you are not consciously working on your mindset, if you don't have support to do that, to knock out those negative beliefs, this is going to totally throw you for a loop and continue to keep you stuck and very, very confused. Because when we believe both these mixed messages, it puts us in no-win situations, which our brain is really good at doing to try to keep us safe. No matter which way we turn, on one hand, here's the positive, but I can't do it because on the other hand, here's the objection, right? So if you're suffering from self-doubt, from lack of belief in your abilities, from a fear of failure, from a fear of criticism, from these people close to you, I guarantee that the conflicting negative beliefs that you've heard along the way, you've picked these up as truth, and they're warring with your dreams. Okay? So right now, if you know you're not reaching your fullest potential, here's the deal. We've got to look at the messages that we're believing. And often those are very, very clearly reflected to us in the things that hurt us the most from what our friends and family say. The things that hurt us the most from what our friends and family say. Those things that wound us the most are the things that we fear the most are true. Those things that we are most wounded by, the reason that we're so affected by them is because those are our greatest fears. Does that make sense? That's why they hit us so hard. And that's why as we begin to strengthen our mindset, as we begin to get support for our mindset, as we begin to grow our mindset, it doesn't affect us as much anymore. But if right now those things are hitting you hard, I want to invite you to take a look at what kind of mindset support am I getting? What kind of mindset practice do I have? All right, next. You guys liking this? Is this helpful? Let me know in the comments and say hello if you haven't already, please. I want you to recognize the place that these negative comments are coming from. So let me give you another example here. This just happened last week. An extended family member asked me about my book And if you've been following me, you know that I've been working on my book all year long, and you may know that just about a month ago, I decided to pivot my messaging and get super, super targeted with it. And so I told my extended family member that I'd changed the theme of this first book that I'm writing, because I know there will be others to follow, but I changed the theme of this first book. I'd picked a lane, and I decided that I'm going to focus right now on how you can create your own business so that you can quit and stay out of your 9-to-5, right? Which is super congruent with all of my messaging right now and where I am in my business. And this person said to me, the first thing they said was, well, not everyone can start a business, you know. I was like, ooh, this is going to be an interesting conversation. Instead of getting defensive, which I would have a few years ago, like totally owning that earlier in my business building journey, I would have totally gotten defensive. I would have totally freaked out. It would have totally like reacted. But instead I went, oh, okay, interesting. Like, tell me more about that. Where are my notes here? I said, okay, so tell me what you mean by that. And they said, well, I mean, there just wouldn't be enough business for everyone if everyone started their own business. There just wouldn't be enough for everyone to do. And I said, oh, okay. I said, well, but the thing is, like, I don't think that people who don't want to start their own businesses are going to pick my book up. Like, I just don't think that. That would be like me reading a book about how to become a medical doctor when I have no desire to become a medical doctor. Like, I'm not spending my time doing that. I'm not spending my money on that, right? Like, I'm not reading a book about how to become a doctor because I don't want to be a doctor. So if I don't want to quit my job, I'm not going to read a book about how to start my own successful business, how to grow it to replace my income, how to quit and stay out of my job for good. I'm just not going to read it, right? So I said, so isn't that true? And they said, well, it just doesn't work for everyone. Not everyone can do what you do. And I said, well, I agree. I mean, certainly, like, you know, not everyone can do what I do. Not everyone was created to be a coach for high-achieving women to help them grow their businesses and quit and stay out of the corporate world. Like, yeah, I absolutely agree with you there. That's very, very true. And I also agree that it's a choice, you know, to have a certain work ethic, to show up in a certain way, to have that desire, to have that drive. And I can look around my family and say, oh, this person has it, this person doesn't, whatever. Maybe they will later in life. Maybe it'll change. Maybe it won't. That's fine. That's their choice. But, like, that's not who I'm talking to, right? Some people are ready right now. Some people aren't. But this is my mission. This is my mission. This is what I'm meant to talk about. This is what I'm created. This is what I'm here to do. That's what I said to this person. And I love this person, but they just didn't get it, right? I know so many of you hear these kinds of challenges. And so, again, if you're watching this live, as we head into a time where we're all spending so much time on vacation, whatever, the holidays, with people, catching up with people, going to parties, you know, gathering, and everyone asks that yearly question, how's business going? You know, what have you been up to? For me, it's how's the book? How's business, right? You get to choose how you frame your answer. Like, because how are you feeling about it right now, right? And how much are you going to let your perception of what they're going to say color your answer? I told someone else in my family who has really walked this journey with me and seen the transformation in me as I've stepped into who I'm meant to be, how I'm meant to show up in the world, how I'm called to serve, as I've rediscovered, like, who I was as a little girl is actually, like, very close to who I am now. And I hid that person for a very long time. And this was, you know, somebody who's known me my whole life. And so I said to them, oh, I had this conversation with so-and-so. And we were able to laugh about it because my mindset around this now is solid, right? I've done the work. I've been coached and coached and coached. I'm super clear on my mission. I'm super clear on my passion. I'm super clear on my niche and my confidence, rendering competition irrelevant, rendering criticism like this irrelevant. And this no longer stops me. And so I share that with you because I want you to know what's possible, right? Because when I was early in this journey, when I was still in my 9-to-5 side hustling, when I was still questioning whether, you know, being an entrepreneur was meant for me, when I was in my first business that was not my zone of genius, when I was first starting out of my 9-to-5, I would have taken this stuff really hard. Like, a conversation like that might have totally crushed me. Totally crushed me. But but it just didn't. Like, I recorded a voice memo on my phone to tell you all about it, and I laughed about it, and I let it go. Like, I haven't thought about it since. I recorded the voice memo because I knew I was going to forget about it if I didn't write it down, because it just rolled right off of me like a duck, right, in the water. I want you to know it's been a conscious choice to get to this point. And so if you feel very susceptible to criticism, because I'm a highly sensitive person, and I know a lot of you are too. Like, I'm very, very sensitive. But I also know that with confidence and clarity and consistency and mindset work comes this ability to show up in this way and to engage without it totally derailing me. And with still the ability to empathize and not come off as like a jerk, right? So I want you to hear this. Having these questions asked of you is not an indicator in any way of your future success. It is 0% an indicator of your future success, okay? So, I also want you to ask this question when people give you their helpful advice, right? Is this person someone I'd want to trade places with? Is this person really happy in their own life? Is this person living the kind of life I desire to live, I dream of living? If not, if they're not someone I would trade places with, then I can love them, but their opinion in this area does not have to matter to me. I do not have to let it matter, right? I can choose to be like, oh, that's really interesting, and also they're totally uninformed. You don't have to say that. But like, it's like asking somebody who is like the epitome of unhealthy and eats McDonald's for every single meal how to become a super vegan, right? Or how to transform your health and be radiant in every way from the inside out, total holistic wellness, when they never exercise and they eat McDonald's for every meal. You just wouldn't ask someone like that how to transform your health, right? And so just because you love somebody, it doesn't mean that you have to take on their advice or their opinions. My husband, and if he's watching this, like, he would totally agree with me here. We are so opposite in this way, because he loves his 9-to-5 job. And he married a serial entrepreneur. And there are times he looks at me and he's like, what? Where did that come from? That's a thing? Oh my gosh, it's like so crazy. But early on in our relationship, I spent a lot of time trying to convince him to become an entrepreneur. I spent a lot of time trying to convince him to think the way that I thought. I spent a lot of time caring very, very deeply about how and when and how often he was going to validate my entrepreneurial dreams. And I was disappointed time and time again, and he was frustrated time and time again, because we're on completely different pages with this stuff, right? So I had to come to a point where I was going to stop asking him these nitty-gritty things about my business and about whether I should do this package or that package, or like fill in the blank, whatever you find yourself asking someone really, really close to you in your life about that you're getting disappointed by, right? And I had to say, look, he's not the expert here. This is my business. I'm the expert. And also I'm going to hire somebody who's more expert than me to ask these questions of. So he and I can talk about all the awesome things that this business is going to do for us, right? Like the international travels and the car I'm going to buy him, you know, and the beautiful dream house that we have bought together as a result, and like the way I'm able to be home with Fee a lot, and the way I'm able to set my schedule, and you know, all those things. We have so much common ground, but it took me being willing to let go of trying to convince because it mattered to like my worthiness, right? What he thinks of the business. Like, I don't feel that way anymore. Of course we talk about money. Of course we talk about, you know what I mean? Like, of course we have these things we talk about as they relate to the business. And there are things that he's an expert on that I can say, oh, what do you think about this system or that system? Because he like has that analytical mind. And we have those conversations, but I figured out what those are now, right? I'm not continuing to throw whether my business is worth, whether it's going to be successful, whatever, and at the feet of somebody who doesn't want to be an entrepreneur. right? At the feet of somebody who has not done years and years and years of mindset work like I have, who has not been coached on how to live my best life through my business, with my business, etc., 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 consistently for years now, right? Does that make sense to you? So it can be both. It doesn't mean you have to cut somebody out of your life if they don't agree with your business or they don't get it. But it does mean you find other common ground in order to have a great relationship, right? These examples I've given you, it doesn't mean that I love these people any less. But I think a lot of times we can equate, oh my gosh, we hear something like, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And you're like, oh my gosh, this person I spend so much time with, my best friend or my husband or my boyfriend or whatever, like they don't get my business and therefore I need to cut them out of my life because they're negative. And that's pretty black and white thinking, right? And like, it doesn't have to be true. Now, I mean, I have another example here. I work with a lot of women in transition of one kind or another, right? Like they might be going through a breakup or breakup with a best friend or like a divorce or like something really hard, a job loss, like, layoff, whatever. They might be going through a major transition and that's why they've sought support at this point. But it doesn't mean that you have to create that transition if you don't want to. I'm going to check the comments here. You guys let me know what you think about this. Nancy says, I have a whole bunch of devil's advocates around me. Yeah, Nancy. So like, this is another one of my points. So I'm glad that you brought that up. One of the things that we can do is to, when we have a whole bunch of devil's advocates around us, is to detach and to thank them for bringing up these opportunities to strengthen our mindset. To detach and to thank them for bringing up all these opportunities to strengthen our mindset, right? Because every time someone brings that up and it's like, oh my gosh, it sticks with you, right? Or you're like, oh wow, that criticism felt really bad. Well, cool. That's an opportunity for me to address that with my mindset, right? It's an opportunity for me to strengthen that muscle so that I become so convinced that what I'm doing is working and I'm seeing the results and I'm moving forward, that next time I see somebody like that, I'm not assigning some external, oh, well, if I don't have this marker, if I don't have this revenue, if I don't have this goal, then it means I'm not successful. No, instead I'm saying like, this is about how I'm feeling about my business, the momentum that I'm creating, and that is what means I'm successful. It doesn't mean I'm crazy or living in unreality. It means that we're very aware that the way that we think about things gives them the meaning that they have. Oh my gosh, I'm so fired up about this, as you guys can probably tell. Does this make sense? Hi, Lucy. Kalia says, yes, so true. When we're faced with a challenge that before would have crushed us and instead we handle it with courage and grace, we can see how we've grown both consciously and subconsciously. Exactly. Oh my gosh, and isn't that amazing? Yeah. Nancy says it's funny because when someone gives bad advice in other areas, it's easy to ignore it. But for some reason, career stuff seems like other people's opinions are reasonable. It's so true, right? Like if somebody is bankrupt, we're not going to go ask them for investing advice, right? If somebody complains, similarly, if somebody talks all the time about how miserable their job is and how they wish they could just quit, but they can't because, and like blah, 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 it's not practical. I'm just living for retirement. I'm living for the weekends. I'm whatever. And then they turn around in the next sentence and say like, you can't quit your job. Like that's not practical. Don't you know all the people who X, Y, and Z? Like, why am I listening to you? You're miserable. You spend most of your days doing something that you hate. How are you going to help me? How is your opinion going to help me create a business and a life that I love? Right? But I think that like a lot of times these businesses we're creating, when we're creating businesses out of our passions, right? We're creating a life with passion. We are not, it matters so deeply to us, right? We're not just like, oh, I'm just opening this retail store and like, nothing wrong with retail, but like I'm opening this storefront and I don't really care about the products I sell. I don't care about the transformation I provide. I don't care about how my products help change people's lives. I just want to make money, right? We are not those entrepreneurs. We are like this is how we help people. Our work matters so deeply to us. We want everyone to get on board. We want everyone to catch the vision of how it's going to help our lives, our families' lives, our friends' lives, the world's lives, our clients' lives, right? And it matters to us when somebody doesn't feel the same way. It hurts, right? So like we take that on because we want them to get it. We want them to be with us. We want them to have transformation, right? But if they're eating at McDonald's every day and our goal is to help them become a vegan and they're not open to it at all, number one, we're not going to listen to them on their advice about how to be more healthy. And number two, they're probably not our ideal tribe and client. Doesn't mean we can't be in relationship with them. It does mean that they're probably not going to get this particular part of our lives. And the more we can separate from that and stop trying to convince them that they have to, the happier we're both going to be. Because nobody likes to feel pressured into this stuff, right? So the more I try to tell my husband, like, you got to understand this, right? Like, you got to get on board. And then I'd be crushed when he wasn't. The more frustrated we both got. But when I was like, this is his deal. He's really good at what he does. He's really into what he does. This is my deal. I love what I do. I, eat, sleep, and breathe it. I'm so into it. And they're different things, but we can still be happily married. That created a lot more peace and a lot more space. And you can apply that to any relationship in your life. And instead of trying to convince them, this is a huge tip for you, okay? Instead of trying to convince them, I want you to turn that back around and focus on convincing yourself and your confidence and your mindset. I want you to turn that back around. I want you to separate. I want you separate from that mattering. I want you to cut the cord there. I want you to detach from trying to control their reactions or what they say or don't say. And I want you instead to focus on you, because that is the one thing that you can control. Right? I want you to separate from the people pleasing, and I want you to focus on yourself instead. I want you to focus on how you show up. I don't want you to be wasting all this energy on what other people think. And I know a lot of us here are people pleasers or recovering people pleasers, like totally calling myself out there. You can call yourself out too, if you want to. But this is an opportunity for you to grow and detach from that. Okay? What questions do you guys have about this? What examples do you want to share? Fill me in. And while you're doing that, I want to share another example with you. Are these examples helpful? Let me know. Where's my other? Oh yeah, okay. So here's my third example. Real life, happened also last week. So I was with some family last week, and I also was coaching, and so I had this really powerful morning of coaching calls with my clients, and it seemed like there was this theme where there was a lot of emotion going on. There were some relationship changes happening, and I'm totally available for that work with my clients, right? I was talking to a woman last week who's working with a business coach, and she said that her coach is only available for the strategy and not the ability to work on confidence and mindset. And so they're working on designing a signature this and a signature that and the messaging here. But where this person was feeling very unsupported was in mindset. She was feeling very fearful and doubtful and waking up sad and discouraged about her business. And so I said to her, well, isn't your coach helping you with that? And she said, no, mindset's not a part of the work that we do together. And I have no problem drawing a boundary if somebody brings up something that I'm not comfortable talking about or feel like they should seek the help of another expert with. But it's always both life and business when you're building a business. So if you're going through a tough time with your husband or your boyfriend or a breakup with your best friend or a layoff or whatever, those things cause emotion. My clients often cry on the phone, and that's okay. I do too, it matters to us. This work that we're doing matters to us, and emotions are an important part of letting us know what matters to us, right? So anyway, it was an emotional morning, full morning of coaching calls, really, really powerful, where clients were coming to the phone, feeling really down because of other things that had happened in their lives, and looking to get reset and reinvigorated and walk away with like confidence and a clear plan and, remotivated, re-inspired. And that had happened for them. That had happened for those clients. And it was so, so, so powerful. And so when I came back and got together with my extended family, I just said, like, what a privilege it is to work with these women, like, these different stages and going through these things in their life, and to support them through it and to be there for them, right? And to be their coach. And so somebody in my family said, well, must be hard to do business in that situation, when you're dealing with those types of things. And I said, you know what? Actually, no. I said, actually, we do some of our best work in these times because that's when it's truly transformational, right? Yes, it can be really powerful to lay out that 90-day marketing plan in a session, or design that opt-in, or start the email list, or, talk about how to do sales in a way that feels really good for you. And I work with my clients on all of those things. But also when you come going, I'm doubting things because my boyfriend and I broke up, or I'm scared because, I've been laid off, or like, I've just been through this divorce. I feel like my confidence is really shaken, or whatever it is, we do some of our best work during those times. And I was able to reflect that to my family. And I said, we're not just talking about the surface level. We're not just talking about Facebook ads. We're not just talking about whatever it is, We're doing deep work that enables these clients to become the kind of people who are actually going to be capable of running a successful business. We're not just throwing strategy on top of strategy on top of strategy and going, good luck, just execute, right? We're developing into the kind of people who are capable of making empowered decisions as a CEO going forward, right? Day to day to day to day to day, no matter what strategy comes along. Not the kind of people who might just hit on one strategy, make a bunch of money doing that strategy, and then lose it all because they didn't develop into the kind of person who could grow and scale that business and pivot when you need to and trust yourself. So I share that example because I think that that's like something a lot of times people think, oh, it's not the right time for me to start my business because I'm going through this thing. Or like this person in my family said, well, it must be hard to do business when you're dealing with people are crying and you're dealing with these hard relationship transitions. But no, I disagree. I think that's a lot, and I can say that with confidence because most of you probably know that I started Life with Passion out of losing my daughter, Maeve, right? And so I can say with confidence that that's, that loss, that tragedy in my own life, out of that came my dream business, right? Out of that came my total transformation. Not just surface level, one day I'm going to decide, right? I had to go through my own deep, deep work, and now it's my privilege to help my clients do the same, and I really want you all to understand that. And I also really wanted this family member to understand that. Does that make sense? All right, let's see these comments. Yeah. Lucy said, yeah, I'm slowly coming to this conclusion with my husband. And you know what, Lucy? It's super freeing. It's super freeing for both of you because nobody wants to feel pressured. I mean, if you told me today that, fill in the blank, I couldn't do this, guess what? I'm immediately going to want to do it, right? So if I tell my husband he has to get on board with XYZ thing, and he's like, I don't understand where you're coming from, and it's brand new, but I've been really excited about it. It's really important to me that he gets on board. Then it just puts pressure on both of us. And so when we take the pressure off, it's completely freeing, so take the pressure off any of these negative friends and family members. All right, hi Heather, hi Jamie. Cleo says, such awesome training, Christine. Thank you. Total people pleaser in recovery here. Woohoo! And yeah, totally. If a coach is only available for strategy and not mindset as well, it's really like a mechanic who only takes care of the outside of the car and ignores the engine. Yeah, the car can be beautiful on the outside, but if the engine isn't working, the car will never run, right? Jamie says, really needed this today. Oh, Jamie, I'm so glad. Thank you for sharing that. I'm so glad. I'm so, so glad. Mallory says those moments are what yield to the biggest transformation. I know it's basically at rock bottom before I started working with Christine. Oh, Mallory, thank you for sharing that. And thank you for being the super bright shining light that you are now and rocking a booked out kick-ass business and basically being an all around badass. Heather says, such an honor women feel so comfortable to let loose and fully express themselves and be open. I know, exactly, right? Like, it doesn't matter if we're helping them with taxes or business or whatever. Like, it's about empowerment, right? And it's about building into the kind of person that is capable of success. And so, as it comes, my notes are like all spread around here. As you head into the holidays, I want you to think about this as well, all right? I want you to recognize the place that they're coming from and recognize that any negative comments that you might get from any particular person, that is much more of a reflection on them and of their mindset than it is on you and your business. I'm going to say that again because it's super important. Recognize that any negative comments that you get, anything you perceive as negative or critical now on the holidays, anytime as you're pursuing your dreams and your business, it is much more a reflection of them than it is of you and your potential and your business. And so if you go in, if there are people you're nervous about having that conversation with, if you go in with that frame, kind of like imagine this bubble of peace around you, and you say, I'm just going to bounce that back off onto them, right? What's that like nursery rhyme? Anything you say, bounce off of me and back to you. I don't know what that is. It's probably not a nursery rhyme. It's probably like something that kids in, elementary and middle school say. But you know that thing. Like, imagine that. It's bouncing off of you. You're not taking it in. You have the ability to put up that shield, to put up that bubble of peace. Recognize the place that they're coming from is much more about them than it is about you and your potential. Go in with that frame. Also, I want to remind you, if you're watching this, you have already done way more mindset work than the people you're going to encounter, right? I need to go hang out with my business besties, with my own coach, with my, mastermind partners or same stage or further along in business. If I'm going to be around people who've done as much mindset work as I have. And the same is probably true for you. If you're watching this, you've probably done much more mindset work than anybody you're going to encounter around the holidays or anytime, because the truth is we forget how much work we've done to get to this point, and then we're super offended and crushed because we're sort of assuming that somebody else has done the same mindset work, and so that if they say that, then they're totally qualified to say it, and also we love them, right? No, it's not true. They are coming from a place of reaction. Here's what's usually going on. Here's what's usually going on in this case. Somebody is reacting because they're reacting to their own perceived limitations. And let me give you an example. If you go out and succeed and kick butt in your business and make the exact kind of money that you want to make, and you are out of the 9-to-5 world for good, and you are living your dream, and you're traveling, and you are buying the things that you've always desired, and your bank account's constantly growing, and you're just happy and joyful. And they have been telling themselves a story about how it's not possible to do that their whole lives. One of those things can't be true. And as humans, we have a strong desire to keep ourselves safe. We have a strong desire to justify our beliefs and reinforce them. And so if their beliefs are being threatened by your actions, they're going to try to convince you to do something different. Now, most of this is completely unconscious. They have no idea that that's why they're doing it, but that's what's happening. Does that make sense? Do you have questions about that? Let me know. Hi, Nick. Nick says, loving your work. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Oh, it's so good to see you. Happy Christmas. All right, what's happening is that these people, these friends and family who you love, are trying to keep themselves safe. Now, they might be doing this in the name of concern for you or trying to keep, you safe, practicality, all of those things. But the truth is that's their frame, right? It's not practical to quit the job. It's not safe to quit the job. Maybe the people who are the most outspoken advocates against what you're doing, the biggest critics, have that desire but haven't ever taken action on it. And so they have to convince themselves constantly, and then of course as a matter of course you, that it's not safe, that it's not okay. Because what would it mean if it was? So they're holding on to those beliefs really, really tightly. And of course that, out of the heart, the mouth speaks, right? Isn't that what the Bible says? So here is a great quote from the author of The Big Leap, which that's my number one book that I recommend all of you read. If I argue for my limitations, then I get to keep them. Right? If I argue for my limitations, then I get to keep them. So you can apply this both to the limitations that people are trying to project onto you in the name of keeping you safe and keeping you in practicality and blah, blah, blah. But you can also apply this to yourself. What limitations do you find yourself convincing yourself of, right? If you argue for those, then you get to keep them. It's good, right? If you are open to changing them, then you can also open yourself up to changing your actions and your results. Which is why you work with a coach, right? Which is why you work with a coach. Always. Like, if you know you're holding yourself back, if you know that you can't see, your label because you're inside the jar, if you know you have these perceived limitations and you're letting people in your life hold you back, this is why you work with a coach who's available for the mindset work and the strategy to support you every step of the way, right? A good coach helps you move through these things. That's what I do for my clients, as you've heard me say, right? We identify and move beyond those perceived limitations. And if that's something that you want to talk about, getting support with me in the new year, I do have just 2 spots open to start working with me in January. I'm very close to completely booked, and I have just 2 spots left. So that's why I wanted to share that with you guys. And I'm going to put a link to my calendar where you can book a free call to talk about whether it would be right to work together, whether my help is what you need to get where you want to be. I'm going to put the link right there in the comments if you're watching this in my group, or you can go to my website, lifewithpassion.com, and go to contact and just send me a message. lifewithpassion.com/contact. Super easy. Okay, because coming back to, if I argue for my limitations, then I get to keep them, which is again a quote from Gay Hendricks of The Big Leap. Oftentimes we're pretending not to know something, and that's holding us back, right? A therapist at Faith's Lodge, where I've gone every year since Maeve died, which is a place for people who've lost children to go on retreats. Therapists ask that question of all of us, right? And I actually wrote an article that got featured in the Huffington Post about this. What grief and entrepreneurship have in common? This question: what are you pretending not to know, and how is that serving you? And you are available for the mindset work, right? Like your friends and family who are not even conscious that they're pretending not to know something, are not even conscious that they're arguing for their own limitations. Like, don't go to somebody like your husband or your best friend or your mom or dad or whatever and be like, you're just arguing for your limitations because you want to keep them. No, this is just like an observation for you to have, right? Like, oh, that's so interesting the way that they behave. Huh, right? Oh, wow. Yeah, they're really arguing really hard for their limitations. Wow, they're really pretending not to know that this is possible. What do these things help you to do? They help you to detach. They help you to detach from the emotion of it. They help you to detach from the reaction of wanting to react, of wanting to defend. Right? They help you to detach from the story these people are telling themselves about why they can't and what it would mean for them if you could. They help you to detach and look at it like, oh, wow, yeah, that's crazy. I remember one time was having like a really, really difficult time with somebody in my close world. This person like was dealing with some pretty significant issues. And my therapist at the time told me, like, maybe you could just like kind of play with a little bit, like looking at him like, looking at this person like an animal in a zoo. Which is like super irreverent, but it took the charge out of it. Like, oh, that's so interesting the way that they move. That's so interesting the way that they behave. Like, that's so different than me, right? Like, they're a curiosity, right? So not to compare someone that you love to like an animal in a zoo, but to say like, how do we detach from this, right? Because we know that all of this work is perception. Their perception might be, it's more practical to go work for someone than for yourself. But the mindset that you might be ingraining, which I happen to believe very deeply, is that it's much safer to rely on yourself than on some huge corporation that is not making decisions out of your best interest, but with the best good of the profits and the shareholders and the board of directors, right? And an agenda that you have nothing to do with, no matter how good or bad a job you do. I believe I'd much rather rely on myself and know that I can get my own results and I'm responsible for my own results, rather than like, if I watch Netflix all day or I don't watch Netflix all day at my desk, I'm still going to get the same raise or not raise, right? No, I want to be responsible for my results. Thank you very much. I'm totally willing to show up for them because I know I can work hard, right? And I want to reap the rewards of that. So I believe, and you're probably working on this as well, it's much safer to rely on yourself than on some huge corporations not making decisions that are best for you. Because just generations ago, almost everyone in our families were self-employed, right? Since the Industrial Revolution, everybody moving to the cities and everybody becoming workers, that's totally shifted. But a few generations ago, if you look back in my family, they were farmers, they were entrepreneurs, they were tradesmen and women, right? I mean, they had a trade, they had a business, right? They were not working as part of a huge company. And if you think back, and look back in your genealogy, maybe grandparents, great-grandparents, that was true for them too, right? So like, it's just perception that's getting passed down. And if we're not aware of it to change it, we're just going to carry it on. We're just going to carry on that story because we're blindly adopting the beliefs that we've heard. Okay? So when you are with family, when you are with friends, when you are at those parties, when people are coming in asking about how business is going, I invite you to share your excitement about it. I invite you to share how you're feeling about it. I invite you to share your vision. I invite you to detach then, after you shared your excitement, your belief, you've painted this picture, right? I invite you to detach from how they respond. I invite you to put up that bubble of peace. I invite you to remember that they might be arguing for their limitations so that they can keep them. I invite you to remember that they might be pretending not to know something because everything that we do serves us somehow, right? In order for them to keep themselves safe. In order for them to not have to take a hard look about what they're unhappy about, instead projecting it onto you as criticism. I invite you to detach. Remember that this is about their need to feel safe and okay. Remember that there's some, like, that little boy or that little girl inside of them is trying really, really hard to stay safe. And to view them with compassion as you think about them as maybe a little child, because it's easier to think about as somebody as a little child with compassion than it is about like somebody who's super grumpy and trying to stomp all over your dreams, right? So think about them with compassion and think about having a bubble of peace around you rather than viewing this as an attack from which you must defend yourself. And if I can help you with these things, if I can talk to you about how my support, if you want to chat about how my support can strengthen your mindset into 2018 as well, and beyond, right? To help you become the kind of business owner who is available to show up for yourself, to confidently, show up in your relationships, to confidently like not even take on this negativity and to continue to move forward no matter what happens in your business. then I invite you to book a call with me, because I'd love to talk with you about the transformation and the work that we could do together. Now, before I sign off, I want to read through the comments, and I want to take any questions that you guys might have. So type them in. I've got a couple more minutes, and I'd love to help you. Lucy says, completely, jealousy is a horrible thing. Like, I think that I think that we can reframe that, though, Lucy, to say, like, sometimes it's not such a horrible thing. It's just a reflection of, like, what they actually wish was true for them, but they can't give themselves permission, or they're not self-aware enough to know it. Because a lot of times if we feel jealous about something, and I know that this was totally true for me for a long time, I was like a super critical person, because that was the way I protected myself from owning that those things I was being critical of were the things that I really wanted and desired. So I criticized people for having this thing or that thing, or this experience or that experience. And I was very judgmental, but the truth was that I was jealous. And so when I became aware of that and I owned that, then I was able to transform that and go, thank you. Oh my gosh. It's so interesting that I'm really critical of that. That probably actually means that that's something I really desire. But I'm protecting myself from owning the desire, because then it would mean it would be something I would need to, process by just being critical of it. So I think it can be like a really beautiful thing if we allow it to be. You guys keep typing, and I'm going to grab my charger real quick, okay? Oh yeah, I'm back, baby. I'm back. Okay, so Mallory says, I remember the first conversation I had with my parents when I quit my full-time job and built my own business. I remember going in and saying, I know that you might not agree with this decision, but I don't want your judgment right now, because it's truly what's on my heart, and I ask you to respect that. Oh, Christine helped me to deal with this situation. I appreciate it so much. Mallory, that gives me chills. That is such an empowered way to have handled that, right? To just set that boundary, to go in not expecting that they would understand, and saying, I don't want your judgment. I don't want your feedback. I am an adult. I'm letting you know this as a courtesy, and because I love you and you're my parents and all of that, but like, this isn't yours to try to coach me through, which can be really hard with our parents, right? Because, they raised us, like, they're still our parents, right? They knew when we were Fee's age and throwing tantrums, and they raised us and they helped us through every step of the process. And so it can be really hard for them to detach from that role as a parent once you become an adult, right? Because they still want to keep you safe. And what does safe mean for them? Well, maybe that means a job. But I love the way that you handled that. And that is a great example for everyone. And it was such an honor to support you in that. And look at you now, right? I'm sure they're so, so, so stinking proud of you, right? I love that. Yeah, Heather, corporations do what's best for them. Job's not safe. We just think it's safe. Totally. It's just perception. And Jamie, I love that you're from a long line of entrepreneurs on your dad's side. Something that I've been hearing a lot from women lately who are looking for, desiring their next chapter is the next thing that I want to do and be and have is an entrepreneur with my own business, right? I've done these things, I've accomplished these things, and I know that I'm ready to be an entrepreneur. And I love that. Heather, did not tell her friends and family coworkers she was starting a business because I didn't want to hear the negative limited thoughts. Yeah, I love that. You protected yourself and your business baby, right? A lot of times we say, I got distracted reading the comments. Sorry, guys. A lot of times we say, you've heard me say, because I relate this to having a baby, right? If I showed a picture of someone, of my baby, of Fee, to somebody, and they were like, your baby's ugly, I would be totally crushed, right? Because I think every new mom is worried about oh my gosh, is my baby gonna be cute? Is it gonna be ugly? I don't know, whatever. At least I was calling myself out there. Am I going to love it? Like, am I going to think it's cute? What if I don't? Oh my gosh, I don't know. Like, it's craziness, probably hormones, but it's fine. Obviously, I did think she was cute, and obviously, like, she legit is cute, and I'm totally unbiased, so I can say that. But like, if I was sort of basing whether or not my baby was cute on what other people would say about it, then I'm totally opening myself up to being crushed. If I take my brand new business and my brand new business mindset, moving from being an employee to an entrepreneur in mindset, and I say, what do you think? What do you think? Oh my gosh, here's my business baby. And I give it to somebody who has no clue what they're talking about and let them make that judgment, then I am really setting myself up for potential disaster and crushing. And so I love the way you handled it, Heather. No, this is what I'm doing. You guys don't need to know about it because your opinion doesn't really matter. But I'm doing it either way. Right? So go out and succeed, and then you can talk about, you can talk about all your success. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Hi, Kim. Oh, Heather, yeah, my sticky note board back there. So last weekend we had some additional family come and stay with us. And one of them said to me, you really love your Post-it notes. And I was like, dude, that's my book. Like, this is the way you outline a book, right? So yeah, it's kind of out of control. It continues the whole length of this huge wall, which is, again, a huge wall. But show you if I can. I don't know, maybe. Oh, look, there it goes, there it goes, there it goes. But that's how I'm writing a book. Awesome. Thank you all for joining me. Thank you for the hearts, for the love. Thank you for your insights. And thank you, Kalila, for sharing that you thought this was an amazing training. Yes, we are entering into the holiday season with the dynamic personalities. I love that word, dynamic, of our family members coming together. Yeah, creating a whole family dynamic, right? So thanks, Mallory. Thank you all for watching. Thanks for participating. I trust that you got something out of this, and I would love to hear your biggest takeaway in the comments, live or on the replay. I'd love to hear what you're going to take away with this and how you're going to approach the holidays or any day dealing with negative friends and family while you're building your business. Thank you so much for joining me. I am off to, if you're watching this live, I'm off to take the afternoon off to go have a day date with my husband as we prepare to celebrate the holidays and travel to be with more family. We're going to go enjoy ourselves this afternoon and go have a nice lunch. And I look forward to talking with you all again. You can grab the link in the comments if you would like to book a call to talk about whether working together and one of those last 2 spots that I have available is right for you. So sending you so much love. Looking forward to your feedback and your questions, your comments, and your takeaways. Lots of love, and take care of yourself and your business baby over the holidays, okay? No negativity hangovers. Use these tips to walk in empowered and to stay empowered all the way through. Lots of love. Bye.